Cashless in a sea of the dying and shameless.
But yeah, so yeah, inflation, I believe the true definition is it's the abnormal increase in the money supply. And we've had a worldwide abnormal increase in the money supply. Every nation, pretty well, apart from maybe Russia. I mean, Britain, Europe, Germany, Japan, the USA, our monetary base has just is on the steep climb of the exponential curve, even on a logarithmic chart. We're going vertical. And like you said, they use terms like quantitative easing. And a lot of serious people argue that, well, that doesn't affect anything because it stays trapped in the system. But when the government is running a multi-trillion deficit, they use that money to pay for things. That money, currency, goes into the system. It's diluting the monetary base continually. And that's the cause of the rise of costs of prices.
Hey everybody, it is Rob Keynes with goldsilverpros.com. It is Thursday, April 21st, 2022, and back as usual in this time slot is Ian Everard, our guest from Arc Silver. Ian, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks Rob, and all the better for seeing you.
Yeah, for you as well, and you guys are smashing it in your business, which we'll get to near the end of the conversation. But I wanted to start off something that you and I talked about before the recording, and it's really a clarification. And if anything, it's more to provide transparency into terminology and language. It's the economic concept of inflation versus the loss of purchasing power of the dollar. And you had made a good comment about that. We talk about inflation all the time. And I just to kind of lead this off for you, I think what the government does is they use certain terms that make it complicated, like quantitative easing, right, which is money printing. They do that to make it sound scientific, like they've got control of the system. But in reality, there's just a simple explanation for why we have inflation. If you could please explain that to us. Yeah,
and just to sidestep a little bit, talking about control, they have got control of the system for their own benefit. The financial elite who are in charge and tell our governments what they can do and can't do, all these changes are done to their benefit. They always come out on top. You look how much the billionaires were enriched through the COVID period. I mean, that their wealth trebled, I think, some billionaires. But yeah, so yeah, inflation, I believe the true definition is it's the abnormal increase in the money supply. And we've had a worldwide abnormal increase in the money supply. Every nation, pretty well, apart from maybe Russia. I mean, Britain, Europe, Germany, Japan, the USA, our monetary base has just is on the steep climb of the exponential curve, even on a logarithmic chart. We're going vertical. And like you said, they use terms like quantitative easing. And a lot of serious people argue that, well, that doesn't affect anything because it stays trapped in the system. But when the government is running a multi-trillion deficit, they use that money to pay for things. That money, currency, goes into the system. It's diluting the monetary base continually. And that's the cause of the rise of costs of prices. And right around the world, we're having tremendous trouble. And not just the cases like Greece or Turkey, the countries we're used to looking at as basket cases. But you look at Germany, I just heard yesterday, Aldi overnight, and Aldi is one of the main German supermarkets, put their prices up between 20 and 50% in one price rise. That's in Germany. And then our governments will say, yeah, well, it's all Putin's fault, it's causing all of this. Well, yes, it has an effect, but the real cause is the debasement of our currency. And that is theft from us, the people.
It is, and it's very simple. It's just when you print a whole bunch of currency and it sloshes around the system and people use it, it tends to increase prices, all being considered. And I think, Ian, what had masked that for a long time, this is something I covered in my book, chapter 2 of my book about 12 years ago. What masked inflation for so long was just the incredible increase, not only through the Industrial Revolution, but now the tech age of technology and how technology masks a lot of that. Because when you have technology, you can produce more goods, you can mine more materials. And so a lot of that money sloshing around doesn't immediately hit you, at 10 to 20% a year. But I think we're at the point in which, the technology growth has reached its limit. Case in point, we were talking before the call about Netflix. Netflix has retraced most of its growth dating back to 2018. It looked like it's headed straight down to where it was about 6 years ago. And what is that? It's one of the, it's basically, it's streaming companies, a tech company. People are realizing, what value do they produce? They reach their subscriber limit. That there's only so far technology could take that industry, the streaming industry and the movie distribution. And at some point, you're going to have a cascade down. You have overvaluation and cascade down. Yeah. And I think that's what we see generally is we had this irrational exuberance in tech for so long, but it was overstated the value of it because it can only do so much. And now what we're seeing is real things costing more money despite all the technology that we have.
Yeah, and it's a compounding effect on the debasement of currency that at the same time we're getting a global breakdown in the just-in-time basis. And the bulk of industry was based on getting their components on the day they needed to assemble, because that reduced their inventory costs, that reduced their costs, which was deflationary. And as you say, a lot of the technology, the robotics, and outsourcing, so you'd get more and more specialists making a smaller and smaller type of product, a specialization. But now that's breaking down, and I don't know if you saw on the Shanghai shipping report, there was at one point it spiked at 476 ships waiting to get in or out of Shanghai port. Now, is that deliberate? I don't know. Or are the Chinese in just some complete confusion? They seem to be convinced that the latest strain of Omicron is dangerous, is going to kill them all. Or are they deliberately using as an excuse to crash the economy, knowing that it will crash the whole world economy? I don't know. But definitely the complicated world system is breaking down. The supply chains and shipping. When you add all of these to the debasement of currency, I think I predicted we would get 25% inflation in the US in the first quarter, and I think we're close. A lot of people, that is their real rise of cost of living. I think we're going higher.
Well, food inflation was 29% during the first quarter, year over year. In March, during the end of the first quarter, 29%, according to Truflation and Shadow Stats in places like that. So food has gone crazy. Energy and transportation's gone crazy. The one thing that didn't go crazy, interestingly, were medical costs. It's funny when medical costs have been going up so much for so many years, and then it's now dwarfed and surpassed by just basic goods. And I think it's now really starting to hit people in the pocketbook, and I think they're struggling. And getting to your point about China, they could be trying to restrict growth because they can't handle it, because the systems don't handle it. Because what we're talking about before is when you have so much money sloshing about the system, so much technology, sometimes you grow too fast. Yeah. Sometimes you have too much stuff. And China may have realized that. I mean, they're a big manufacturing center. So is Germany. You were talking about Germany. And I think the realization for both Germany and for China is, hey, we can't keep up this pace. Not only do we have too much money sloshing around, we don't have enough goods. And so, Ian, there needs to be a revaluation of things in society to something other than the dollar standard, because the dollar standard has failed. Yeah, it's costed to try to produce too much. You see areas of the economy that have been below for 10 years are now crashing. The economies are struggling to keep up. We have supply chain issues. And I think all of that was exacerbated by this fiat dollar system, which hid a lot of the growth issues for so long. And now it's like, the cracks in the dam is about to burst. Yeah. Do you think we're going to have to go back to some sort of precious metals standard, or at least allow precious metals to trade in real markets of value, given the problems we're having in the dollar and the euro and the pound and all of these currencies?
Well, two questions there. I think some of us have gone back onto a precious metal standard. I store very little in the bank. I try to keep enough for the week ahead. The physical currency I keep, as you can see behind me, is now in nickel and $half, because I believe, well, we know that the nickel value is more than the 5 cents face value, and I think the $half is going to catch up pretty soon. The nickel and copper in the $half is going to catch up. So, is the world going to go onto that? They may be forced to. we get a cascading effect. How many people does it take to lose trust in their bank for the financial system to collapse? Probably about 4%. If 4% of people go to their bank and withdraw all of their cash, that's all of the physical dollars gone from the US banking system. Now, they can't print up instantly physical dollars to replace that. So in a way, that would force the hand of the government or the Treasury to actually switch to a digital system and stop us being able to take our physical cash out. So I've got a hunch that us precious metals guys are actually going to force the government to make some decisions, maybe become a bit more honest in their dealings, because we can start to trade. And the number of states that are now, we've got the Utah gold back, the New Hampshire gold back. Idaho voted to have precious metals as part of their reserves. Texas is huge on the precious metal reserves, even built their own depository. So piece by piece, people are choosing to go onto a precious metal standard. So whether it just carries on and increases that way, or we get to the point where we try to use a dollar to buy something and it just doesn't work anymore because the person selling the goods or services realizes they can't buy what they need with that. I don't know. We are in uncharted territory. It's a long time in history, I guess. No one living has really, not at least in the US, experienced that change from the collapse. We have to go right back to the greenback, I guess, was the last time we had notes that lost their purchasing power.
Nobody in the currently alive generations, and even my parents who were the wartime generation during the Great Depression, even they didn't experience a failure of the currency. They experienced a Great Depression in terms of available credit in the banking system. But I think what will come next is Great Depression, failure of the banking system, plus currency revaluation, collapse, reset, whatever you would call it. And not only in the U.S., but we're talking everywhere. And this, the implications of this, Ian, are staggering. And I say it all the time. People say, Rob, you're crying wolf. And I'm not. I'm just saying you can see these things over time. It doesn't matter if it happens tomorrow or 2 years from now. The point, because we have to try to get people prepared and understanding this. This is a major shift. This is a type of shift that occurs every 250, 300 years. And I agree with you on the personal gold and silver standard. It's funny, I was having lunch with my good friend Chris, who lives here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, with me, and he brought some old copper coins. I wish I had them at my desk so I could show them. And it's not only gold, silver standard, but what about copper? What about nickel? I know you've got nickels behind you, but copper and nickel, Ian, are trading at 3 to 4 times, what their value is as a fiat currency. So at this point, you get your nickels from the bank. You don't spend those because they're worth more. The nickel and the copper content in the nickel is worth more than what you get trading as the fiat money. And that's just another symbol of the dollar's on its way out when the base metals are worth more than the trading value of it.
And I'm not sure how long we'll even be allowed to get coins out the bank. I've been told I've got to wait 4 weeks now before I can get some more. So,
oh, do you? Okay. That's and I notice what's popped up a lot are these coin machines where you put your change in, and they're all over the place now. They've always been there. The coin, whatever you call them. In Walmart, you walk in, it's the green machine. You put your coins in, you get a credit you can walk up to the register with and either get your cash or buy groceries. And that made sense because it brought Walmart money. But now they're everywhere. I literally see them in drugstores and malls. Wow. And my bank has one too. But my bank, the good thing about my credit union, they don't charge me to turn in the coins, but they want the coins. And I don't know if they're taking them out of circulation because think about what happened with COVID 2 years ago and all the shortages of coins. Well, we didn't all of a sudden. It's not like all these coins disappeared off the face of the planet. I think that they were collecting the coins and keeping them out of circulation. I think because they need the base metals. We know we have shortages of copper going on right now, but I think the government understands that there's shortages of this metal. And I think that they were, taking the coins for that reason. I thought that was really interesting.
That's Gresham's law, isn't it? Bad money chases out good. I can't be the only one stacking nickels. there must be thousands of people with way more than what I've got.
Yes.
And that multiplies out. But I think the real reason them with withdrawing coins or making it harder to get coins, so a lot of shops don't take cash because unless you've got the correct change, they want to drive us away from using cash. I think that's the main reason. I think the metal value,
and like Apple Cash, like I was talking to a friend last night. I wanted to pass her some money that I owed her, and she's like, well, do you have Apple Pay or a Cash App? And I'm like, can I just give you cash?
Yeah.
But everybody's on electronic stuff now. So I now have on my phone PayPal, and I'm sure some hacker is going to have a field day with this, but PayPal, Apple Pay, Apple Cash, Cash App, Venmo. I don't know how many payment apps I have here. And there's so many of them. It's all about, tap here, pay your. Yeah. It's all going electronic.
It is.
And the danger to that is, one, you don't know how much you're spending. It's harder to keep track of what you're spending when you're using those apps. But two, it gets people used to it, and then people don't want to use cash anymore. They get used to the convenience of just walking up to the grocery store and tap, okay, I'm done, I paid.
Yeah. I was talking to an elderly gentleman in the store just a few days ago, and he said he hasn't used cash for 10 years. And this was an older guy in his 70s. He said, I haven't used cash for 10 years. Never had change in my pocket.
Yeah. And I, like you, I'm at the point where I'm constantly putting money either into the metals or to something else. I don't keep a lot of cash anymore. I have to keep some for the business, but personally, I just don't keep a lot in my account. I'm just afraid that at some point it's either there's going to be a bank run or it's not going to be worth anything. And I'd rather be able to take, my silver up to my local coin dealer. One thing I'm doing to kind of help people get affordable silver is sending over to Jim Forsyth of Silverback Precious Metals, my 1,000-ounce bar that I bought from you. He's going to cut them up into 10 and 25 ouncers. And just so people, can have silver.
Yeah, I mean, they're a great product. So I'm stocking them now and actually keeping physical stock so I can send them out quick. So you can have pretty well any weight you want. You can even have it personally engraved on the back for a very reasonable fee. And they're priced below buying a 100-ounce bar from a mainstream online precious metals dealer. So, I think that's exceptional. I mean, there's a 50-ounce as well. So do
you think in 10 years, Ian, these are going to be considered collector's items because they're going to be pretty rare?
Yeah, I think they have a premium because each one is unique and they're handmade. So no one is the same. They have the provenance from the bar they come from. So it's got the original COMEX number and the refiner that's all linked. They have a database for that. And then from the shavings, they're making these beautiful hand-poured 10-ounce rounds. And these are gorgeous. These are better value than a 10-ounce mainstream bar at the moment.
Yeah, they are.
And so far everyone I've weighed has been over 10 ounces, so they're generous as well with that. So those are a great product. Yeah.
So tell us about the products you have at Arc Silver. I know on your website you have the 1,000-ounce bars. I think I saw them for $1.45 per ounce over spot, and then you have the Kennedy 40 percenters. I think it's like $1.29. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. The 1,000-ounce bars, we can sometimes still do them at 99. It just depends literally by the hour which wholesaler has. If they have a little too few many on their hands, sometimes I can persuade them to. So, but the general price is now north of 99 cents on the 1,000-ounce bar. We still have some 𝙂𝙊𝙇𝘿 kilos. We have a few beautiful Germania kilos, which are the premier German mint with like a little hologram on the back.
And I did send you some 𝙂𝙊𝙇𝘿s that you can sell to people in.
If you buy a 𝙂𝙊𝙇𿗍, you might get one of Rob's. Yeah,
that's right.
Just a few of those left.
I love the 𝙂𝙊𝙇𝘍s, but I needed the money to pay for a business expansion, send them to you, and now they're available for people. I love the bar. I kept some of it. I didn't sell them all. But those bars are absolutely beautiful. And my son actually picked it up the other day and looked at it and says, I want this. It's awesome. I'm telling you, when you have a religious experience, when you pick up a gold or silver bar, and those, kilo bars are just right to fit in a hand.
Yeah, or your pocket. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then the Warnicles are, well, I think are incredible value because 20 of these has 1 1/8 of an ounce of silver. So for an extra 30 cents, I'll put them in a tube for you, so you can have them in a tube. So I will sell a tube below the cost of the tube. It's well worth having those as true fractional silver. And if you're bored, you can actually polish them up. They do polish up really shiny. So
oh, it looks nice. So we talked about a lot of stuff today. I just wanted to reiterate all the inflation we're seeing today. And I think also the crash in the tech sector and the economy are all the result of the dollar. On one hand, you have the inflation of prices because too many dollars have been printed. But I think you have a crashing tech sector right now because there was too much growth that couldn't be supported. There was the expectation this growth would go on forever. And that's what the dollar does. It hides real supply and demand, essentially. It hides real trade factors. And now we're starting to see that around the world.
Yeah, and does the dollar pass the test of, can we call it money anymore? And I mean,
no, I don't think it ever was money. It was currency, but not money.
I mean, Rafi Farber says it was a gold substitute, which I think is a good term. I mean, I've got a list of things here. So, one, money should be a unit of account. So, well, yes, the dollar is a unit of account. We have an idea of what it's worth, even though it's falling. Medium of exchange, yes. Portable. Yeah. Durable. The paper ones aren't that durable, or the cloth ones. Divisible, yes. Fungible, i.e., are they indistinguishable from each other? Sort of. But is it a store of value? Now, that's the last one I put on my list. It's definitely not a store of value. So therefore, it is not money. It's currency.
This is where you get the big XXX on the Family Feud game to answer that. No, it's not a store of value. And that's the big thing. And other money substitutes, the CBDCs and Bitcoins and Ethereums, are they stores of value? I think there is a big debate over that. We don't know yet. I've got my own opinion on that. But there's a debate going back and forth on any of the crypto or the central bank digital currencies. They're two different animals. But I think we know what is a store of value, and it's gold and silver. I mean, we know that over 6,000 years, don't we?
Yeah, and another way to look at it, you have to, I don't know what the figures are, but you have to move maybe a ton of rock or more to get 10 ounces of silver. You've got to crush
more than that. The average mid-grade silver mine's about 150 grams per ton. 150 grams.
150
so
grams.
What is that?
So you've got to move seven tons to get a kilo.
Exactly.
So you've got to move 7,000 kilos, grind it, process it, send it to a refinery, refine it, process it into a bar. So another way of looking at precious metals is that they're a store of energy, because as energy that gets more and more expensive, which it will, it's going to cost more and more energy. And I think most mines, half of their costs are fuel. Half
and labor.
Total running costs. Yeah. I think half
labor.
is fuel.
Yeah.
The amount
it's
of
people's
heavy
labor
machinery.
too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of labor that goes into silver, getting out of the ground. Any commodity you get out of the ground, it's a store of labor. And labor really, Ian, is a measure of time.
Yeah.
So it's not just energy, which is a limited asset. Time is a limited asset.
Yeah.
At least in the context of a person.
Yeah, and we're coming up against the wall of ESG, all of the, taking 10 to 15 years to even get a mine in production.
Oh, yeah.
Let alone reopen an existing mine. That can take years just to get it re-permitted. And it would seem like the governments are trying to hinder the production of materials. And if you think about it, everything we need, we either grow it or mine it. That's it.
And if we do, let's paint this picture for people. If we're limiting the ability to do that, at the same time, we don't have the supply chain systems to process everything that everybody wants that they're used to having in their lifestyle. At the same time that the fiat currencies are being exposed for having been overvalued, I think that spells a big reset. And not just a financial reset, but a reset in people's expectations. And I think that's coming, and I think it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree with that, Rob. And whether it is a sudden reset, it doesn't actually really matter, because if you just look back how things have been changing year on year and decade on decade, if that happened all at once, we'd call it a reset. And going back to what you said about a lot of people say, well, you're crying wolf, you're talking a book. Yes, I sell precious metals, but I'm convinced it's the safest way to ensure your financial security. And yeah, we could say it's going to happen next month. It's going to happen 6 months. It's going to happen next year. And maybe it doesn't, but it will. And in the story that the wolf came at the end of the story. So the dramatic change, whether it's suddenly or just steadily, a process of attrition, it is happening.
Yeah, I agree with you. And so where can people get in contact with you, Ian, if they want to get some of the cheapest silver on the planet? And it is, because I've looked around. When I say that, I cannot find the prices that you guys offer on the selection that you have. So how do they get in contact with you if they're interested in getting silver? Yeah,
you can click on Gold Silver Pros and go through on the info on the bottom of on the video, or you can go to 𝙎𝙀𝙍𝙀𝙍𝙀.com.
Yeah, we can do that. And everybody remember, if you use the form on our website, if you go to Gold Silver Pros and click on get access to precious metals deals, and you fill out that form, it'll go to Ian's team. Remember that if he emails you back, check your spam folders just in case, and also provide a phone number because he may text you. We've had some people contacting Ian. He's sending emails back, and it's going in spam folders, and people aren't, I guess, maybe checking them. So make sure that you just add. What is the email address, Ian? Is it invest@ardsilver.com?
That's it, Rob. Yeah.
So add that to your contacts so it doesn't put it in the spam folder, and also provide a phone number so he can text you as an alternative way, because we want to make sure that you're getting your metals.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go to Arc Silver, you're going to get them cheaper than anywhere else. I think that's been pretty obvious over the last while that Ian's been doing this. So Ian, thank you so much for joining the program. We appreciate having you back on.
You're welcome, Rob. Thank you.